Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a really long time since I posted anything, and I've been a little MIA for like the past 2 months, but you know what, it's a new month, I'm ready to get back, but life happens, right? And really ultimately, I just had a lot of personal things going on. It was a really tough 2 months for my family and I. We had a pretty significant loss in our family. We also were dealing with some other just personal stresses. And ultimately, I said, you know what? It's time to just take a break and kind of focus on those things, make sure those things get done. But now that I'm back more focused than ever. And I feel like it was needed to really kind of just get my mind right. So what was my goal and purpose really with my blog, and what's my goal been with my videos? And really what it comes down to is helping people just live a more meaningful, purposeful life, and just having some tips and kind of things to think about in order to help you kind of get through these different seasons or just continue to be a better person. And based on my learnings and just kind of based on my personal experience. So really that's what you're going to be finding more on my blog now, is a lot more focused on those types of things. So the first thing that I wanted to kind of talk about today was just dealing with that amount of stress and dealing with loss. I think these past 2 months have just taught me a lot, not only about myself, but also about my family and just in general what people are doing, and how we can just be better in these different situations, because we all deal with it. These end up being very taboo topics, which makes it really uncomfortable sometimes to talk about. But when we talk about them, when I'm talking to my close friends about them, it's like, yeah, this is something that we should be talking about more. Like, we all go through these types of things. So really what helped me get through this season in my life was, first of all, realizing that it's a season, right? Like, we all go through tough times. We all go through fabulous times. But they're all seasons, like just like the seasons change throughout the year, with the actual seasons like summer, winter, fall. We have the same thing also with our lives. We have really positives and really negatives. And unfortunately, the past 2-3 months have been pretty negative for me. But I did learn a lot. So after realizing that it's a season, I've really been working on my mindset. And there are so many things that you can talk about and learn about in the mindset. But ultimately, what it comes down to is just reframing your brain. A couple posts ago on my Instagram, I was talking about shifting your paradigm. So a paradigm shift, really what that is, they talk about it a lot in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, is just imagine it almost as like a set of glasses, right? Like, you're seeing the world through your lenses. The moment you put on a set of glasses, you could even be silly and go like this. You see the world in a completely different way. So reframing your mindset and seeing everything through a different lens is kind of what's been helping me out. So when bad things happen, that's the only thing that you're focused on in your life, then you'll continue to channel yourself on those bad things, right? Like, you'll only put on the bad things glasses, and that's all you'll continue to see. Which that's why it's so important that we counteract that with some positive glasses, right? Like, even think about your daily life. We, for example, or sometimes, right, people are thinking about a bunch of negative things every hour. Like, imagine and think about your thoughts. How many times do you think about something negative? And this is just an honest personal question, right? At least maybe once an hour, maybe once every half hour. There are a lot of bad things you can be thinking about. You're walking down the street and you're like, is somebody gonna mug me? Or, you're at work and you're like, can I get fired today? Or, you're at home and you're trying on a new dress and you're like, oh, I look fat. Or so many negative things, right? How many times a day are you thinking about something negative? And I want you to just kind of keep that number in your mind, or just how many negative things you've thought about during the time that you're watching this video. So we have to just continue to try to counteract that with something positive. So that's kind of something that I continue to work on was, how do I counteract these negative, really bad things that are happening in my life with something really positive? And reframing my mentality around the fact that not every single thing in my day is negative. It's interesting because we also kind of see this in social media, right? Where you're like, oh my gosh, that person just has like the best body. And you're like, well, you didn't actually see like the whole story. You're only seeing this much. You're not actually allowing yourself to reframe and say, okay, well, that took 2 hours a day in the gym. It also took a super strict diet. It also took saying no to happy hour every other day. Or the same thing for that person on like that fancy vacation, right? You're like, oh my gosh, why can't I be like Susie? She's always on vacation. And it's like, well, yeah, because she works 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. And, she has to put her social life on pause. So a lot of the times, not only are we only focusing on this one thing that's like either so bad or so good, or you're so envious in social media, you fail to see the whole picture, right? So that's kind of one important thing is like, how are you reframing? How are you seeing the whole picture? And how are you counterbalancing whatever it is that you think is so one thing or the other with like, okay, we're probably somewhere in the middle with like where reality is. And really kind of living that way ends up kind of putting us in this place where, you're like, oh, the negative, the negative, the negative. Whereas, as I was dealing with my loss, unfortunately, I lost somebody I really loved to cancer. And she knew she was coming towards the end of her life, and she just wanted to make sure all these things happen. And it just made me think, like, if I was in that scenario, if I was in the situation where they tell me, hey, you only have X amount of time to live, say you only have 1 week left in your life, right? Would you be living that way? Would you be on social media thinking, oh my gosh, why don't I have what that person has? Oh my gosh, like, why don't I look like that person? Or, oh my gosh, everything in my life is so negative. Probably not, right? And the reason for that is because we would want to live it to our maximum potential. We'd want to spend all of the time with the people that we love. We would want to do all of the things that we enjoyed because we knew that our time's coming to an end, right? And ultimately, we should be living every day like that, because the reality is we don't know when that time could be for us. So instead of falling into this comparison trap or falling into the everything is so negative in my life trap, right? Turning it around and saying, okay, what's the positive in my life? What can I do to improve my life? And also, like, if somebody is somewhere that we want to be in life, let's take all the steps to get there, right? Instead of just like moping around and just letting all the negative just get us down. And really this comes down to kind of something that I was working on over the past couple of months that I've come to call the 10-3 rule. So if you say something negative, right? Like in my case, I said, everything happens to me. All these negative things are only happen to me. Or I can't change this situation, right? Or I can't do that. I just can't. Can't starts becoming this like very common word in your vocabulary where you're just like a really negative place, right? I can't do that. So instead of doing that, right, you realize yourself saying it, because we do. We already discussed kind of how many times a day you catch yourself thinking negative things. So get that negative thing, create some space. So create some 10 seconds for yourself. Say you realize you caught yourself saying that, I can't do that. And you're like, okay, step back. I'm going to take that back. And then counteract that statement with 3 of the cans. So instead of, I can't do that, you're like, okay, I said something really negative to myself. Then you say, okay, what's the opposite of that? I can. I can do that. I can do that. And I can and I will do that, right? So it's so powerful to tell yourself, even just 3 times in that one moment, spending those couple of seconds just reframing your mind, because you have the power to reframe your mind. If we think about it in sense of dollars, right? So imagine you had $86,400 in your hand, making it rain. No, you're not actually making it rain. You want to hold it in your hand for savings. And imagine that out of that money, you end up dropping $10, right? So you're walking down the street, you have this giant wad of cash, $10 fell out. At that point, when you realize that you lost the $10, you have 2 options. Option 1, you go back and you say, I lost $10. I'm just gonna throw the rest of my $86,390 away. Or you have the second option where you say, okay, I still have $86,390 in my hand in cash. I'm gonna keep going on with my day. $10, oh well, done, right? That's exactly how many seconds we have in our day. We have 86,400 seconds in our day. And if we allow one snippet of 10 seconds, or even you're thinking negative thoughts every hour and those 10 seconds end up adding up, right? That's 240 seconds. That's still not equivalent to 86,400 seconds. So us controlling our mindset on a constant basis throughout the day is really what's going to kind of allow us get through these negative phases or even these negative moments in our day. And piling that on with a gratitude list, which I share with you guys a lot. I do a gratitude list every single day. I write down at least 3 things that I'm grateful for that day. Like, what are the specific things that happened in my day that I was grateful for? You know, it could be something as simple as I have a car that runs and gets me from my home to my work, and I know that I'm safe. Something like having a warm home, something like having a wonderful marriage, a fabulous family. Something as simple as, you know, going to get a haircut with my mom. It could be something very simple, or it could be something very grand. Like, I just went on the vacation of my dreams. I just bought the house of my dreams. You know, all of these things, it's across a giant spectrum. But the point is that our life is comprised of so many things that we could be grateful on a day-to-day basis, that if we just take the time to reframe our mindsets and to counteract those negative things with the positive things, eventually we'll be able to get through these really difficult seasons of our lives. And that's where we want to be. We want to be there together. We want to be there with a balance. And if we're doing so great and we have all these positive things going on in our lives, but we see maybe our friends going through the negative things, right? I mean, I'm super grateful and blessed to have the friends that I have to help me to get through this season. It's like, hey, you know what it's like to be there. You know what it's like to be in a dark place. Now, not only do you know what it's like to be there, but you know what it's like to get out of there. So why don't you help out your friend who's experiencing a really tough time and teach them about these principles. Teach them, it's just take it one day at a time, one moment at a time, and ultimately they'll be able to get out of this really tough season in life. So I hope today's video was very useful. I appreciate you guys for watching this far along. I appreciate you for your patience kind of over the past couple months and for your support. And I'm really excited to continue to connect and share these types of videos with you. If you feel like this video was useful, please share your comment below and share also with your friends. Any other feedback I welcome on Instagram. Like I said, I'm very new here, so I hope you have a great day.